Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 37 based on novel. So let's start. They weren't naive and released their martial souls as soon as they entered inside the Spirit Pagoda's monitoring room. The staff member turned to Wu Zhongkong and said, "These kids are pretty good. Teacher Wu really is very good at teaching." Wu Zhongkong gave a humble nod. "Let's see how they do first." Although he had always been the type to suppress his emotions and keep a stony expression, he couldn't help but feel pleased with his disciples. As he watched them undergo their trials, a 20,000-year-old motto popped into his mind: Shrek Academy only accepts monsters, not ordinary people. Regardless of the time period, Shrek Academy had never failed to uphold that motto. This motto was engraved into every single student of Shrek, instilling them with a sense of pride. I wonder how far these brats will be able to go. In order to become a monster, other than having first-class talent, one also needed unyielding perseverance. From his observations, all 5 of his students possessed talent, with Gu being the most talented among them. There were no records of her martial soul or anything similar within Shrek Academy and the Spirit Pagoda's history. Miraculously, she was able to control 5 elements, and despite the fact that her soul skill could only increase how effectively she utilizes her soul power to control the elements, she was still able to combine the 5 elements into a variety of attacks. What need did she have for extra soul skills then? Her spiritual power had also reached unprecedented heights, especially when compared to her peers. Just the fact that she was able to reach the spirit connection realm at her age, combined with her speed of improvement, meant that by the time she graduated in 6 years, she might actually reach the spirit sea realm. If she actually managed such an unprecedented feat, then her future potential would be limitless, rocking the Soul Master world. Xie was undoubtedly the second most talented individual. His twin martial souls were a rare and amazing gift, regardless of era, and though his twin martial souls were artificial rather than natural, they were still beneficial for him. No one could say for certain, but in the future, Xie might just be able to. As for Zhong Yangzi and Wang Jin's talent, it could only be considered as decent. Neither the Bone Dragon King nor the Shadow Phantasm Eagle could be considered as peak-level martial souls, but the two were compatible. If they could one day perfectly control their fusion skill, their combat strength would then be on the same level as a peak genius. Although, only time could tell whether or not they perfect their soul fusion skill. After all, their grasp of their fusion skill was still at a rudimentary level. Lastly, there was Tang Wulin. Wu Zhongkong had appointed him as the team captain because he saw a quality in Tang Wulin's character that couldn't be found in his peers. He was tenacious, his so-called trash martial soul having never discouraged him from cultivating hard. He slowly followed behind his classmates, step by step. He also had innate divine strength, making him the strongest one amongst them and could make up for the deficiency of his martial soul at these lower ranks. What was even more notable, though, was that he had a variant martial soul and possessed the peculiar golden dragon claw. Out of the 5 individuals, he was possibly the strongest, but it was still too soon to tell. If his martial soul continued to mutate, then there was a high chance he would become a super genius like Gu. Tang Wulin's steady temperament made him the best choice for a leader, and he was also a natural at taking care of everyone at his side. The most important point, however, was that he was brave enough to shoulder this responsibility. Wu Zhongkong's greatest hope for Tang Wulin was for him to mature and become one of the geniuses of this generation. The 1,000 refined hammers also made it clear to Wu Zhongkong that Tang Wulin was a first-class genius in the art of forging and that he would not stray in his secondary profession. Although blacksmithing wasn't as popular as the 3 great mecha master professions, 5th-rank blacksmiths and higher were one of the scarcest talents on the continent. Although battle armor designing and crafting were extremely high-level skills, blacksmithing was the foundation they built upon. With excellent materials, the designs could be even better and the workmanship of even higher quality, allowing the battle armor to reach the peak. Wu Zhongkong truly wished for Tang Wulin to travel as far down this path as possible. If he had to choose which of the 5 students to take the exam to enter his organization, then Tang Wulin would definitely be the most suitable. He couldn't make heads or tails of Gu, but he could tell that she carried many secrets and would have to keep a close eye on her. Tang Wulin used his blue-silver grass vines to part the grass in front of them and create a path, allowing them to advance slowly and carefully. As this was their end-of-term final exam, their number one priority now was to survive. As such, hunting soul beasts was a secondary priority placed at the back of their minds. Finding a safe area to occupy was their most important objective now. No signs of soul beasts at the rear or sides, reported Zhong Yangzi. As Tang Wulin nodded in acknowledgement, a heavy silver hammer appeared in his left hand with a flash of light. His right hand was empty in case he needed to use his golden dragon claw. Suddenly, a low growl came from ahead of them, announcing the arrival of a large beast as it leapt out. It was a giant ape as tall as a human. A faintly fishy odor wafted from its ash-black furred body as it glared at them with crimson eyes. After his first experience in the Spirit Ascension platform, Tang Wulin earnestly studied the various species of soul beasts. That, combined with his experiences in the Spirit Ascension platform, increased his understanding of soul beasts to a level incomparable with before. With a single look, he identified this ape to be a 100-year iron-arm ape, a type of human-like soul beast. It was both quick and strong and possessed arms like steel. The most troublesome aspect, however, was its crowd skill, threaten. If someone with weak spiritual power was hit by its threaten, then they would receive its full effect and may even lose their desire to do battle immediately. Thus, the best method of dealing with an iron-arm ape was to strike first and gain the upper hand. Whoosh! Tang Wulin instantly threw his hammer, sending it flying in an arc toward the beast. As it flew through the air, Tang Wulin took large strides forward and charged. Golden scales crept up his right arm as he launched his frontal assault. As he did so, a strand of blue-silver grass slithered along the ground, twisting around the iron-arm ape and binding it. Xie had also acted the moment Tang Wulin made his move. He dashed forward and stuck behind Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin grabbed one of the strands of blue-silver grass tied around his waist and swung it upward, launching Xie into the air. Xie somersaulted beautifully over the iron-arm ape's head. His light dragon dagger flashing as he stabbed toward the back of the ape's head. As a humanoid soul beast, the back of the iron-arm ape's head was a weak point. A pair of small fireballs with faintly discernible green glows pierced through the air like arrows. This might seem unremarkable, but wind accelerated the fireball. Although the fireballs may have been weak, they were blazingly fast. A silver light appeared in front of the iron-arm ape at that moment, blocking its view of Xie soaring through the air and over it. Tang Wulin, Xie, and Guyu's coordination was amazing. It had reached a point where it could be said that they were a hair's width away from reaching the peak. Zhong Yangzi and Wang Jinsi hadn't launched their own attacks. Instead, they had gathered together quickly and observed their surroundings. Even though their fusion skill hadn't yet been completed, it would still be a formidable option should they encounter a powerful foe. Their current goal was to guard against any other soul beasts that might appear while the other three took care of the iron-arm ape. The 100-year iron-arm ape could do nothing in the face of the quick little fireballs. It couldn't even raise an arm in time to protect itself. All it could do was lower its head and knock them away with its hard forehead, sending sparks flying everywhere. At the same time, it swung its arm and met the 1,000 heavy silver hammer head-on. Bang! The hammer flew backward, but the iron-arm ape had also been shaken. After all, that hammer had carried over 500 kilograms of force. It wouldn't have been easy to receive such an attack, even if the ape had innate divine strength. Tang Wulin was the last to arrive in front of it, yet he suddenly stopped in place and raised the retrieved hammer while a yellow ring emerged from beneath him. Strand after strand of blue-silver grass climbed up the ape's body like ivy, binding it completely. Even with its tremendous strength, the iron-arm ape was unable to break free. A light flashed behind its head as Xie took advantage of its reaction to the fireballs to quickly stab it in the head. Who? The 100-year iron-arm ape released a roar as its red eyes flashed with an ominous glint. It moved to sweep an arm at the back of its head. Before it could even raise its arm halfway, however, the glimmer of life in its eyes disappeared, and its large, 2-meter-tall body toppled over with a loud thud. Xie's first soul ring pulsed with light as a ball of gentle light floated over from the 100-year Iron Arm Ape and circled around him. This was undoubtedly the spirit energy of the Iron Arm Ape. Just as they were told, the spirit energy absorption rate during the rebellion period was far slower than usual. Fortunately, it had only been a 100-year beast, so it wouldn't take too long to digest. When Xie had stabbed the Iron Arm Ape with his light dragon dagger, he hadn't been able to kill the beast immediately, as after all, the ape's skull was extremely hard. What he did to make up for it, however, was use his first soul skill while his dagger was still in the ape's head. Like that, he was able to shoot his dagger forward into the ape's brain, destroying it. Tang Wulin gave a thumbs up to Xie and proceeded to recall his blue-silver grass when Zhong Yangzi called out from behind him, reporting on the left side, "It's safe for now." Tang Wulin did not hesitate in leading the others to the left side. They didn't dare stay in one place for too long after killing a soul beast. From the moment the Iron Arm Ape had appeared to the moment it was killed by the trio, only a dozen or so seconds had passed. During the battle, Gu's only role had been to confuse it, yet it was crucial in allowing them to achieve such an amazing and neat victory with their low cultivations. This was the result of their 3 months of combat experience in the Spirit Ascension platform. An individual's strength wasn't solely dependent on their cultivation and soul skills, their application and techniques mattered just as much. There were many gifted soul masters, but the ones who lacked combat experience wouldn't be able to display their full power in a battle. As such, Wu Zhangkong's actions had all been for the sake of laying a good foundation for the students of Class 0. With the growth of their combat experience, they would be able to display 120% of their strength. In his experience, combat soul masters were meant to battle, not serve as decorations. Thus, the best way for them to improve was through combat. For example, Xie had used his light dragon blade soul skill while his dagger was stabbed into the ape's head, allowing him to puncture the ape's brain. Only through combat experience could this type of decision-making skill be cultivated. After running to their left side for several hundred meters, they hadn't encountered any other soul beasts, so Tang Wulin ordered, "Stop. We'll rest here for a bit. Yangzi, you're responsible for scouting this time." "Yes." Zhong Yangzi affirmed before nimbly climbing up a nearby tree to a vantage spot. From there, he observed one side while his Black Eagle spirit soul observed the other, allowing him to keep an eye out in all 4 directions. Tang Wulin and Xie were seated cross-legged, intently recovering the soul power consumed in the previous battle. Although they hadn't used much soul power in that one battle, it was best to maintain their peak conditions in the Spirit Ascension platform. Only like this could they survive for even longer. "There are 3 people approaching in our direction. 2 males, 1 female. They seem to be about 15 or 16 years old. One of them has 3 rings while the other 2 have 2 rings. One of the ones with 2 rings seems to be absorbing spirit energy right now." Zhong Yangzi succinctly reported his evaluation of the approaching group. Without any warning, a red light streaked across the horizon, shooting straight towards the branch Zhong Yangzi was perched on. "I've been discovered." Zhong Yangzi immediately leapt off the tree and spread his wings while Tang Wulin and Xie shot forth like a bullet. Xie's figure blurred for a moment and then reappeared in the shadow of a tree. Meanwhile, the other 4 stood together, waiting for Xie to alert them of their opponent's arrival. 3 people, 2 male and 1 female, approached, giving Tang Wulin a shock when he saw them. There stood one girl in the middle with the 2 boys to her side. Tang Wulin didn't recognize the boys, but he recognized the girl. It truly was a coincidence, that girl was Mu Shi. Floating above Mu Shi was a fireball as fiery as the sun. Clearly, she had been the one to shoot that fireball earlier. Mu Shi's shining sun martial soul was powerful and excelled in long-distance artillery, with firepower that Gu couldn't even hope to compare with. The truly shocking thing was the fact that Mu Shi now had 3 soul rings. She actually had 3 soul rings now. "It's you?" Mu Shi was equally shocked when she saw Tang Wulin, and her shining sun's radiance weakened a bit. "Senior disciple sister." Tang Wulin hastily took 2 steps forward and loudly greeted her. "Amen," Mu Shi nodded at him. "We're going." She immediately turned around and took large strides forward. Tang Wulin had long since become accustomed to Mu Shi's cold indifference towards him, but what he didn't see was the proud look in her eyes after she turned around to leave. She was quite proud of herself after seeing Tang Wulin's reaction to her third ring, and she also noticed that Tang Wulin still only had one ring. Aren't you a genius? Weren't you born with innate divine strength? Yet, your soul power is so lacking. You're making quick progress in the early stages of forging, but just wait until you reach spirit forging. Then you'll understand the importance of soul power. I'll definitely surpass you when that time comes. Senior disciple sister? Zhong Yangzi gave Tang Wulin an astute look. So it's like that. Your senior disciple sister is so pretty. Why haven't you ever introduced us to her before? Senior disciple sister, won't it be better if we go together? His final words were shouted at the departing Mu Shi. Mu Shi didn't even bother to look back and simply left with the two boys, soon vanishing into the forest. With her current strength, she was definitely one of the strongest soul masters in the elementary spirit ascension platform, so it wasn't worth her time to babysit Tang Wulin's group of 1 rings and 2 rings. And besides that, she didn't really want work together with Tang Wulin either. Tang Wulin said somewhat helplessly, "She's the daughter of my teacher. I don't think she likes me all that much, so we haven't really interacted much." Xie let out a mischievous laugh. "This senior sister of yours sure is cruel. Yangzi, you can try getting to know her better if you're interested. We'll support you as your classmates." Zhong Yangzi shook his head earnestly. "Forget about it. I'm not into being subdued, and we're too young for this stuff anyways. We should focus on studying and cultivating right now." Xie raised an eyebrow at this. "Just what are you thinking? I only said you could try getting to know her better. Stop thinking about it too much. You're only a brat in her eyes anyways." HMPH. Zhong Yangzi proudly raised his head. "Just wait until this big brother is in the 5th grade. I'll definitely have 3 rings, too." With his current cultivation speed, it wasn't impossible for him to reach 3 rings by the time he was 14. Gu asked Tang Wulin, "What are we going to do next?" Tang Wulin didn't hesitate at all with his answer. "Wait. There aren't too many soul beasts in this area, so we should be able to survive in this area until we pass. After that, we can go hunt soul beasts, so there's no need to be so anxious right now." The 5 of them once again moved into position, and with the large tree surrounding them, they were able to maintain a perfect defense. During the rebellion period, the number of soul beasts in the spirit ascension platform was far higher than normal, and they were also much more aggressive. In a short time span of 20 minutes, they had encountered over 10 soul beasts. Most of them were at the 10-year level, so they were able to make quick work of them. There were also some 100-year soul beasts, and though they weren't particularly strong, they required more effort to kill. Everyone shared the spirit energy, not for the sake of being fair, but for the sake of quickly absorbing all of it. Xie had taken about 10 minutes to absorb the spirit energy from the 100-year Iron Arm ape, gaining about 5 years each for his 2 soul rings. Evolving a spirit soul to the next level was a gradual process, and it would be a long time before Xie's spirit soul reached the 1000-year level. They had already survived for half the necessary time to pass their final exam and were relatively relaxed as they hadn't encountered any strong soul beasts yet. The rebellion period isn't that bad after all. Zhong Yangzi had loosened up a lot from his previous nervousness since they had only encountered weak soul beasts until now. The most dangerous situation for them was to encounter a powerful soul beast that they had no choice but to flee from. In their panic, they may run into one powerful soul beast after another and die. Although their current course of action restricted the number of soul beasts they could hunt, it was a safe, defensive plan that maximized their survival time. "Captain, should we take the initiative to attack?" Zhong Yangzi asked Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin calmly replied, "There's no need to be anxious, we'll see after 1 hour passes. All we need to do in this first hour is survive." Just then, Zhong Yangzi suddenly paled and his body swaying in shock. "Not good, little black." The 5 of them simultaneously looked up to see a yellow-green net descending from the sky. At the same time, they were faced with the shocking scene of Little Black being impaled by numerous limbs. He immediately disintegrated. When a Soul Master's spirit soul was killed, they would suffer from recoil and it would take them a very long time to restore their spirit soul. In a flash, Zhong Yang's cultivation dropped by a third. A violent gale appeared within the formation of the 5 students. Gu was the quickest one to react with her immense spiritual power. Yet, against all expectations, that yellow-green net didn't even sway in the face of her fierce gale and directly cutting through it. Retreat! Tang Wulin decisively ordered as dozens of strands of blue-silver grass shot up to obstruct the net. However, Tang Wulin was aghast to see that the moment his blue-silver grass touched the net, it started smoking from corrosion. If Little Black hadn't been flying up in the sky, the net would have ambushed and trapped them. It was likely their trials in the Rebellion Spirit Ascension platform would have been cut short there. A massive figure descended from the sky after Little Black's figure disintegrated completely. 8 long legs were extended like 8 spears, surrounding the 5. The 5 of them took advantage of the few seconds the blue-silver grass brought them to escape the range of the net. In their rush to escape, however, their formation had been broken. Apart from Zhong Yangzi being deathly pale, Wang Jinci also started trembling once he saw that beast. Black and white lines ran along a body as large as a millstone. Every single one of its legs were over 2 meters in length, while its body emitted a strange splendor. They had clearly seen a beautiful human face on its abdomen when it had descended, which only served to increase their fear. Man-faced demon spider. The 5 of them shouted in unison. That was right. It was the same man-faced demon spider that had nearly destroyed Wang Jinci's mind. Wang Jinci could even sense that this was the same one that had ambushed him before. Even with Little Black's extra vision, it hadn't been able to discover this man-faced demon spider and had been swiftly killed. The man-faced demon spider truly was a terrifying killer in the world of soul beasts. Gu shot out a fireball which exploded on the face of the man-faced demon spider while the others quickly assembled. Tang Wulin's heart sank. It's a 100-year man-faced demon spider. Even though it's only at the 100-year level, it's far stronger than other beasts of the same level. This guy is going to be really difficult to deal with. Even if I use my golden dragon claw, it would be impossible for me to approach it with those 8 legs acting as defense. Its body is also highly toxic and the slightest contact could wipe out my whole team. Although the battle had yet to truly begin, Zhong Yangzi and Wang Jinci were already shaken. It might not be a good idea for them to fight this battle. They had originally thought that they were lucky to not have met a powerful foe in their first half hour, but it seemed that their fortune had come to an end. Are we running? Xie Xie asked Tang Wulin. They had learned a lot about the man-faced demon spider since their first entry. They knew that even if its cultivation was only at the 100-year level, it was still a terrifying existence that could hunt 1,000-year soul beasts. Moreover, they were currently in the Spirit Ascension platform, so even if they killed it, they would only gain the spirit energy of a 100-year soul beast. Simply said, the potential profits did not outweigh the risks. In their moment of hesitation, the 100-year man-faced demon spider revealed its might. 2 of its legs flashed, destroying all of the fireballs Gu had shot out with lightning speed. All that was left of the fireballs were drifting sparks. The man-faced demon spider wasn't guarded against them at all, rather, it slowly circled around them, a yellow-green thread of silk dragging along from its spinnerets. Anything that touched this silk would immediately wither. We're not running. We're defeating of it. Tang Wulin ordered without the slightest hesitation. They had already been here for a while now and had some understanding of the area, so they knew that if they carelessly ran around during the Rebellion Spirit Ascension platform, it would be likely that they would meet some powerful soul beasts. In that situation, it would be very hard to survive for another half hour. Moreover, Wang Jinci's fate was linked to the man-faced demon spiders now. If he didn't kill it, then it would continue to influence him. They had happened to run into it today with their full team of 5. If they didn't take advantage of this opportunity to kill it, then a chance as good as this one wouldn't come again. These were the reasonings that ran through Tang Wulin's mind when he made his quick decision. No matter what, they had to kill the man-faced demon spider before them now. Strand after strand of blue-silver grass slithered along the ground while he grasped his two hammers tightly. His mind went over all that he had learned of the man-faced demon spider. Man-faced demon spider excels in quick and toxic attacks. Has a strong defense, but not particularly strong physically. It's the killer of the forest. Whenever it appears, fear strikes the hearts of its prey. Tang Wulin's greatest advantage was his strength. The best plan would be for him to land attacks on its weak points, so he didn't even think about utilizing his golden dragon claw. In this situation, his 1,000 refined heavy silver hammers were the best choice. Everyone, stick together, we'll face the enemy head-on. GUU, provide assistance. Xie, look for an opening. Yangzi, Jinsi, observe for now and wait for an opportunity to strike. I'm fine. Wang Jinsi's gloomy voice shouted. Tang Wulin turned to look at him. Although Wang Jinsi was still trembling, his eyes burned with the will to battle. As he and Tang Wulin cultivated together, Wang Jinsi gradually became influenced by him. His cultivation speed had increased and he had also felt slight changes to his martial soul under this influence. Dread had filled his heart when he had seen the man-faced demon spider, but when he heard Tang Wulin say, "We're not running. We're defeating of it," a surge of courage replaced the dread in his heart. Tang Wulin's words had caused his blood to boil and fill him with valiance. He felt that as long as Tang Wulin was at his side, he would be able to face any trials that came his way. In a sort of special state, he locked eyes with Tang Wulin, expressing complete trust in his gaze. Rather than trembling from fear, he was actually trembling from excitement. Even before they had cultivated together, he had felt an affinity with Tang Wulin, but it had never been this strong. This time, faced with the man-faced demon spider, he felt as if he was about to explode. Defeat it. It's merely 100-year-old beast. What's there to be afraid of? The man-faced demon spider was still circling around them, its silk thread continuously trailing from its spinneret to form a ring. The man-faced demon spider was naturally cold, cruel, and extremely patient. In fact, it was its patience that made it so terrifying. It would quietly stalk its prey for hours, all the way until an opportunity presented itself. The 5 students weren't anxious at all. They would wait for it to slow down. Besides, it had already used up quite a bit of its silk. Instantly, its thread was wrapped around a large tree. Although the tree began to wither, it still stood tall. GUU launched a variety of elemental attacks at the spider, but they proved to be ineffective. Toxic spider threads protected it. Even flames had little effect. It's creating a prison for us, and when it's finished, it'll shrink the prison until we're trapped. Xie said grimly. MN. Wait for a chance. Tang Wulin sternly ordered. From below his feet, strands of blue-silver grass arranged themselves into a formation as he continuously supplied them with soul power. The man-faced demon spider is giving us a chance, how could he not take it? GUU silently sat cross-legged in the middle, meditating to restore her soul power. Wang Jinsi stood next to Zhong Yangzi, trembling with excitement. The two were prepared to use their fusion skill at any moment. Coordination didn't matter anymore in the face of the man-faced demon spider. What was important, however, was whether they had the power to defeat it. Tang Wulin's golden dragon claw possessed immense power, but the problem was he didn't know how to approach this gigantic poisonous spider. Xie, if I'm unable to break free, then you'll be the acting captain. Tang Wulin warned Xie. Considering the toxicity of the man-faced demon spider, the possibility of all of them to constantly evade its attacks was small. None of them were anxious to attack as this was their final exam. Their chances of passing were more uncertain now that they had to face the man-faced demon spider, but they still had to fight for as much time as they could get in order to pass their exam. After all, they couldn't truly die in the Spirit Ascension platform. As long as they were able to persevere for 1 hour, they would pass their exam. Naturally, none of them wanted to pass the exam that way. Tang Wulin's eyes shrunk in shock. Suddenly, he threw the hammer in his right hand straight at the man-faced demon spider. With a strand of blue-silver grass connected to it, it streaked through the air like a shooting star. The man-faced demon spider's legs powerfully launched its massive body out of the web it had weaved. The hammer smashed into the spider webs, stretching it backwards. The webs were too resilient and elastic though, so not only was the hammer unable to break through them, it even became glued onto the web. Tang Wulin forcefully pulled to retrieve his hammer, but the spider webs caved in and were dragged along with it. The area that the hammer touched the webs had already turned pitch black. Fortunately, the hammers were refined and its internal structure denser, so it hadn't been corroded just yet. These webs are really strong. Tang Wulin had only thrown his hammer as a probing attack, yet he had already lost it to the webs. It seemed that the man-faced demon spider's nimbleness and cunning was far higher than they first thought. They all knew that it was waiting for just the right moment to pounce on them, and the moment it did, its assault would be as swift as lightning and as powerful as thunder. The ball of webs tightened continuously around the 5 students and restricting their movements. Of course, there was a silver lining to their situation. At the very least, other soul beasts could not attack them right then. "We're still not attacking?" Xie asked in a hushed voice. "Patience," Tang Wulin sternly said. Xie didn't utter another word when he saw that Tang Wulin's gaze was intently fixed on the man-faced demon spider. 10 minutes later, the original 100-meter radius of webbing shrunk only about a dozen or so meters in radius. Squatting down next to Gu, Tang Wulin whispered a few words into her ear, to which she nodded in agreement. With their plan settled, the two stood up. The man-faced demon spider halted in place when it noticed Gu stand up. With icy eyes that seemed to possess a wisdom far beyond a soul beast, it watched the 5 while its abdomen began to swell. "It's preparing to attack," Xie shouted. On Tang Wulin's signal, Gu's eyes narrowed as a wave of soul power surged from her body and a soul ring rose from beneath her. This was her first soul skill, Elemental Tide. Pew! The 100-year man-faced demon spider suddenly turned around and shot a yellow-green net from its abdomen straight at them. After shooting out this net, it screeched and charged straight at them. This net was far bigger than the first one, and was large enough to cover all of the Class 0 students this time. They quickly retreated in this cramped space and narrowly avoided the net. There was no room for them to maneuver at all, especially since the walls were toxic. One wrong move and they would meet their end. Now that its net had failed to ensnare the students, the man-faced demon spider brandished its 8 legs as if they were sharp blades. At that moment, however, Gu stood up and released a yellow radiance from the center of their formation. From this radiance, a giant obelisk with a diameter of approximately a foot long skyrocketed out of the ground and pierced into the sky. The spider webs that had been woven into a net were extremely strong, but fortunately for the students, it possessed no attacking power. The obelisk shot at just the right spot, piercing through the peak of the toxic spider web dome. At that moment, the man-faced spider was finally upon them. Xie rapidly climbed up the obelisk while Zhong Yangzi used his first soul skill, covering him in a pitch-black fog. The strongest point of Zhong Yangzi's curtain of darkness was the fact that it could differentiate between friend and foe, so it only obstructed those he was hostile towards. Moreover, its coverage was directly proportional to the amount of soul power he expended. As soon as the curtain of darkness descended, the man-faced demon spider lost all traces of the 5 students. It had no choice but to slow its pursuit. Suddenly, a strand of blue-silver grass shot up from the ground toward man-faced demon spider while a figure valiantly flew into the sky. Astonishingly, Wang Jinci had been thrown into the air by Tang Wulin. A pair of soul rings shined brightly on Wang Jinci's body. Using his first soul skill, Bone Dragon Claw, his right arm quickly transformed while the rest of his body also transformed to a lesser degree under the effects of his second skill, Bone Soul Transformation. His transformation finished just in time for him to smash into the man-faced demon spider midair. It was at this moment that the man-faced demon spider was forced to reveal the grace of a super soul beast. Faced with the blue-silver grass shooting up from below, it spun its body while unfolding its 8 blade-like legs. Although Tang Wulin's blue-silver grass was tenacious, it was no match for the man-faced demon spider and was promptly cut into pieces. It didn't have the slightest chance of binding the spider. As Wang Jinci descended upon the man-faced demon spider, it spun around and shot out a yellow-green spider web at him. The web this time was smaller than before, but it was still more than enough to cover Wang Jinsi. They exploded into battle, starting at the climax from the very beginning. Victory or defeat would be decided at any moment. Suddenly, the blue-silver grass tied around Wang Jinsi's waist pulled him back toward the ground. Meanwhile, a single strand of blue-silver grass had managed to wrap itself around the man-faced demon spider. Right then, it turned gold. The corrosion and toxicity of the spider was no longer effective against it, while the spider's body abruptly became sluggish. The binding of the blue-silver grass was finally beginning to bear fruit. At that instant, a golden whirlwind appeared out of nowhere. Its target was the man-faced demon spider's rear. Clang! The golden whirlwind of light ferociously landed a sharp blow on the spider's rear, issuing an ear-piercing screech as an explosion of sparks showered from the collision. The man-faced demon spider shrieked in pain as it shook the figure off of its back. Yellow-green blood oozed from where its carapace had been cut open. The second figure who had appeared was precisely Xie with his light dragon storm. Wang Jinsi had used his two soul skills for the sole reason of catching the man-faced demon spider's attention and drawing its second attack. After taunting it to use up its spider web, he was pulled back into the curtain of darkness by Tang Wulin. Xie took advantage of that moment to launch his assault. Although his light dragon storm wasn't strong enough to tear the man-faced demon spider to shreds, its powerful penetrating power could still wound the spider. Bang! The golden blue-silver grass finally snapped from the man-faced demon spider's frantic struggles. To be more precise, however, it snapped after it had lost its golden color. Suddenly freed from the restrictive force, the man-faced demon spider was unable to adapt. Its 8 legs, which were using their utmost power, suddenly felt no resistance, causing them to slip outwards, and its whole body to sink down. 2 lumps of earth opportunely shot out, knocking against 2 of its legs and setting it off balance, creating a small crack in its defense. A figure quietly passed through the crack in its defenses, thrusting a golden claw at the human face underneath its abdomen. Pu! The golden dragon claw stabbed into its abdomen, causing yellow-green blood to gush out. A layer of ice rapidly covered Tang Wulin's body, preventing the blood from touching him. He used his blue-silver grass to bind the man-faced demon spider once more while he retreated back into the darkness. This video will end here.